Plant this once, just once. It reseeds itself every single year into every available space in the garden. It produces hundreds of fruits per plant, each one in its own papery husk, sweet, tropical, with distinct notes of pineapple and vanilla. And it produces all of this in the same climate as tomatoes, with a fraction of the care, no staking required, almost zero pest pressure, and a harvest that extends from summer all the way until frost. The plant is called groundcherry. Scientific name, Physalis pruinosa, a member of the nightshade family, related to tomatoes and tomatillos, but producing something completely different. Small, round, golden yellow fruits, each individually wrapped in a papery tan lantern-shaped husk that protect the fruit so effectively. The berries stay fresh inside the husk for weeks after harvest, without refrigeration. By the end of this video, the question of why ground cherry is not in every American vegetable garden will have a clear answer, and that answer will make the decision to grow it next season an easy one. Tomatoes are the most popular home garden vegetable in America. Millions of American gardeners plant them every spring. They spend money on transplants. They build cages and stakes. They water them through summer heat. They spray for late blight. They manage hornworms. They worry about blossom end rot. They do all of this for a plant that produces for one season and then dies with the first frost. Ground cherry produces more fruits per plant than most tomato varieties. Its fruits are self-packaged for storage. It requires no staking. It has minimal pest pressure. It tolerates heat and moderate drought better than tomatoes. And then it sets seed and comes back next year and the year after, indefinitely. The flavor is genuinely extraordinary. The comparison most often made by people tasting ground cherry for the first time is pineapple, sometimes described as pineapple vanilla, or tropical candy. There is a sweetness and complexity in a ripe ground cherry that a standard tomato simply cannot produce. It is a completely different flavor experience from a plant that grows in exactly the same conditions. Ground cherry has been grown in American gardens before. In the 19th century, it was a common garden plant across the United States and Canada. Old-fashioned jam recipes, old cookbooks, old seed catalogs, all feature ground cherry prominently. And then, in the 20th century shift toward commercial tomato breeding and industrial food culture, it quietly disappeared from most gardens. It did not go extinct. It just went forgotten. Physalis pruinosa, the common ground cherry, is native to eastern North America. Indigenous peoples across the woodlands and prairies of North America ate ground cherries as part of their seasonal diet. The fruit was eaten fresh, dried for winter storage, and cooked into preparations that preserved it through cold months. Related species, the tomatillo Physalis philadelphica and the Cape gooseberry Physalis peruviana, are better known today. The tomatillo, foundational to Mexican cooking, is a close cousin. The Cape gooseberry, sold in upscale grocery stores as a specialty item for $4 to $6 per small package, is the same genus. The flavors are related. The Cape gooseberry has a similar tropical sweet profile, but ground cherry, the humble American native, matches it in flavor quality while being dramatically easier to grow in North American climates. The papery husk, called a calyx, that surrounds each ground cherry fruit, is one of the most brilliant natural packaging systems in horticulture. The husk dries naturally on the plant as the fruit ripens, forming a protective papery shell that keeps the fruit fresh inside. Ground cherries in their husks, stored in a cool, dry location, stay perfectly good for 4 to 6 weeks after harvest. No refrigeration, no processing. The plant provides its own packaging at no cost. When the husks turn from green to tan and begin to feel papery and light, the fruit inside is ripe. The fruit itself, golden yellow at peak ripeness, is the size of a large marble. Pop the husk off and eat it fresh, or leave the husks on and use them as nature intended, as a natural preservative wrapper. Here is what makes ground cherry genuinely extraordinary, beyond the flavor. Ground cherry is an annual in cold climates. It does not overwinter, but it produces seeds prolifically, and those seeds drop to the soil as fruits fall, and they germinate the following spring, without any human intervention. What this means in practice is that once ground cherry is established in a garden, It reappears every spring from self-sown seed. Many gardeners report that after planting ground cherry once, they never purchase seeds again. The plants return, sometimes in unexpected locations where seeds were dropped, sometimes spreading to new areas of the garden. This self-seeding behavior, combined with the minimal care requirements, means ground cherry effectively becomes a permanent part of the garden ecology, reproducing on its own, indefinitely. Now here is the detail that most people never consider about ground cherry. A single ground cherry plant, in good growing conditions, can produce 300 to 500 individual fruits in a season. Each fruit, individually husked and self-stored. This is not the yield of a tomato plant, where fruit clusters represent the harvest. This is hundreds of individual servings from a single plant that required no staking, no significant pest management, and no starting over next year. Ground cherry has attracted genuine scientific interest, primarily from researchers studying its bioactive compounds. Physalis species contain compounds called withanolides, a class of steroidal lactones, that have been studied for their anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties in laboratory research. Multiple published studies have examined the activity of withanolides isolated from Physalis species. The results are described as promising in the careful language of ongoing science. Ground cherry fruit is a meaningful source of vitamin C, vitamin A, iron, and niacin. It contains carotenoids, the plant pigments responsible for its golden color, which are associated with antioxidant activity in the body. For a fruit this small and this sweet, the nutritional contribution per serving is genuinely significant. The flavor compounds in ground cherry have been analyzed by food scientists. The distinctive pineapple tropical note comes from a specific combination of volatile esters, particularly methylbutanoate and related compounds. These are the same ester classes responsible for tropical fruit aromas in pineapple and mango. The fact that a temperate North American native produces these flavor compounds in such concentration is genuinely unusual in horticulture. Ground cherry is one of the most versatile small fruits in the American food tradition. Eaten fresh, ground cherries are extraordinary as a snack. Pop the husk, eat the fruit. The flavor reward is immediate and surprising. They are excellent in fruit salads, where their tropical note lifts the entire composition. Slice them in half and add to green salads for a burst of unexpected sweetness. Cooked, ground cherries make outstanding jam and preserves. The pectin content is naturally good, and the jam sets well without additional pectin. Ground cherry jam, sometimes called Cape gooseberry jam in older recipes, was a genuinely beloved preserve in 19th century American households. The flavor of the jam is described as uniquely complex, tropical but not oversweetened, with a depth that plain strawberry or raspberry jam cannot match. Ground cherry salsa, made with the fruit instead of tomatoes, is one of the most surprising and delicious condiments achievable in a home kitchen. The sweetness of the ground cherry, balanced with lime juice, cilantro, and fresh chili, creates a salsa that stops people mid-conversation when they taste it for the first time. It pairs exceptionally well with grilled fish. Growing ground cherry is simpler than growing tomatoes, with two important differences to understand. Ground cherry is grown in the same conditions as tomatoes. Start seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost date. Transplant after last frost, into full sun, well-draining soil. Space plants 2 to 3 feet apart. They sprawl across the ground. No staking needed. The first difference from tomatoes is that ground cherry is dramatically less demanding. It tolerates heat better. It tolerates moderate drought better. It has no significant pest pressure. No hornworms. Minimal aphid activity. No late blight. The relative ease of growing ground cherry compared to tomatoes surprises almost every gardener who tries both side by side for the first time. The second difference is the self-seeding behavior. The first year, seeds are purchased and started. From the second year onwards, volunteer plants appear from self-sown seed. These volunteers, thinned to the strongest plants per location, produce as well as or better than intentionally planted transplants. Harvest when husks are tan and papery, and fruit inside is golden yellow. Unripe ground cherries have green husks and are not palatable. Simply pull the husked fruits from the plant, leaving husks on. Store at room temperature for up to 6 weeks. Seeds are available from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, Seed Savers Exchange, and most heirloom seed companies carry multiple ground cherry varieties. Ground cherry, native to North America. Self-seeds forever after one planting. 300 to 500 fruits per plant per season. Self-storing in natural papery husks for 6 weeks after harvest. Pineapple tropical flavor from a plant that grows in Zone 4 through Zone 9. And almost completely absent from modern American gardens, despite being common in American gardens 150 years ago. Drop pineapple in the comments if the flavor description is what convinced you to try this plant. And if this is the first time hearing about ground cherry, drop first. The comments section is where this community maps what has been forgotten. Subscribe to Famine Plant Secrets for extraordinary forgotten plants every single week.